Hello and welcome to Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. Today our guest is Jeffrey Belville, who is a retired pharmacist and is currently working on helping and raising money and awareness for the poverty in the Philippines. Welcome to the program, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mirella.
Can you start by telling our viewers what is actually happening in the Philippines? What is the poverty like there?
Well, at the moment you have an overall population of about 110 million, and of that you have probably, and we've become involved more, I guess, initially with the street children, and they estimate there are at least 1 million street children. So that was my initial sort of contact through association with the Missionaries of God's Love, MGL as we know them. Subsequently to be visited by Jodine Solo of the He Cares organisation, and then to make 2 or 3 trips to the Philippines to have a look at the situation there, and to see a level of injustice, of poverty, of possibly as many as 180 to 200,000 street children in Manila alone.
And why do you think there are so many street children there? What is the cause of it? Do you know much about the background of the country and their situation?
Yeah, well, I think it's probably always been there. The Philippines, as time has gone on, has become more and more urbanised. 48% of that 110 million actually live in cities. So you've got this problem, I guess, of just packing people into very, very concise areas. There's evidence, of course, of prostitution, of drugs, etc., etc. And the wages there are probably in the order of a tenth of what we pay our workers in Australia. So there is a very low level of poverty. There's a lot of husbands, unfortunately, that leave their wives and they then sleep with the children on the streets.
Oh, so what do you think? What is the reason these husbands are leaving their wives? Why is that happening there?
Oh, there's like a high level of alcoholism. It's a hard one to really answer why you have that higher level sort of thing, that male sort of situation, but it's just there. Whether or not this is something that has been passed on from one generation to another, it's always been a depressed culture since the time of World War II, I would imagine, sort of thing. We had MacArthur there, of course. So yeah, very much depressed, very much a country where the wealth is in the hands of the very, very few, to the extent that they tell us that something like 40 to 50 families control 90% of the wealth. Well, that's a huge imbalance sort of thing.
So then why would they say, for example, be so different from Australia? What are they lacking that we've got? What's the difference? How come we're not in the same situation as them? How can they learn from us, say, for perhaps for an example?
Well, I think that democracy is not fully evident there, that from the time of Marcos and perhaps before it, that we've had this imbalance sort of thing, which is almost a dictatorship situation.
Because you see a lot of other countries, Australia seems to be doing okay. You're never grateful for where you live, but then you go to another country and you think, oh gee, I'm really, really grateful I live in Australia and I've been born here and I've lived here all my life.
Yeah.
But what can they learn from us, these other countries? Just in case the Prime Ministers are watching, we might be able to enlighten them. You never know how far...
Yeah, well, changes do appear. Television's been a marvellous instrument in places like Russia and that for changing the minds, and I think we need to have more services, more organisations, more charities, more schools and all that entering into that Asian scene, particularly Indonesia, Philippines. I mean, you've got to realise that there are nearly 500 million in the close, within 4 hours flight of Darwin, there are 500 million people. So we're going to be a very, very, if not now, but it's a growing solid part of the world. We see China, we see what's happening in the East China Sea, we see America over there is Europe going to be a dominant, or are they a failing company? Is this part of the world going to be increasing in its dominance? Is a very interesting scenario for governments, I think, to look at.
Because it's really not that hard to live in harmony and peace. It's a decision each person has to make in their choices they make in their life, going all the way up to the politicians of the country.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
People can live in harmony and peace.
Yeah.
You know,
at the lower level, the people in the streets live far more in harmony, I think, than...
And the ones that have got nothing. They're the ones that have got nothing.
They've got nothing.
I went there when I was going to Italy, and I stopped off in the Philippines. And I was told, I was staying with the Focolare movement in the Philippines, and they've built this place called Bukas Palad, where they help all the people in the lowest of the low in poverty in the Philippines. And they took me around to go visit the families, and I was astounded. They lived in literally sheds. It was just like a metal roof on one side and another, and it was just that. And you'd go into their houses, there was nothing in there. It's just bare. But their smiles lit up the whole... I don't even think they had electricity, but their smiles lit up the whole place. The joy in their faces when we came to say hi to them, I just was like so astounded that I came back and I was studying... I got accepted into performing arts, and I said, that's it, I'm not going to do performing arts, I'm not going to do acting, I'm going to go there, take all my clothes, all my things, and give it to them and help there, because I just saw there was such a need there. But then they said, no, work in Australia, do everything in Australia, because you can help people with their faith, and that's the most important thing. When people have faith, they've got everything. These people had faith, but they had nothing, but they had everything at the same time. So it was a very interesting thing. So in the end, I think our faith is what is the most important thing in our life, and with that we can do more good and help these people still. So like you're out there now helping there, you're making trips over there, you're involved with raising money, donating money as well, and getting people aware of what the situation is. So how many times have you been there? How long have you spent there? And tell us a little bit about your experience living there.
Well, I've been to the Philippines on 2 occasions only. I'll be going back again soon. And Indonesia only once.
We'll come back to that. You're watching Nat Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly. Hello and welcome back to Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Jeffrey Bellville, who is a retired pharmacist and is now spending his time helping raising money and awareness for the poverty in the Philippines. Welcome back to the program, Jeffrey.
Thanks, Mirella.
Now, before the break, we just got to ask you about what your involvement is in the Philippines. What do you actually do there? What have you seen there when you've been there? So can you tell us a little bit about your experience when you actually walked through these cities and these villages that are filled with poverty? What was it like for you there? And what did you see and what experiences did you have?
Yes, well, it's only the 2 times that I've been to Manila, but have maintained contact in other ways with them. Initially motivated by the visit of Jodine Solo, who had championed the cause of street children, had been a street child himself, and out of that had been rehabilitated and started an organisation with his wife, Ardis.
And was he from the Philippines?
So he was living in Manila.
Yep.
All right. He was a street child himself. He nearly died, and he recovered, rehabilitated. He then realised, what a terrible life it was. He was but he was educated. So he started what's known as the organisation called He Cares, which at that stage had built up to the level of providing meals mainly 1 day a week out of an old factory, an old warehouse. And it was at this stage that the MGLs, who had a mission in Manila, St Benedict's, Father Steve Tynan, became associated, all right? So then this word got back to Australia, and subsequently missionary priests have gone there and are working out of St Benedict's. So that was the scene when I went with one of the MGLs and visited Joe, who was talking at that stage of the potential of building a specialised facility for the most needy, mainly boys who were sleeping alone on the streets or managing in the tips, etc. So I was sort of moved by that. His dream was to build a facility which has subsequently been built, which was opened last October for 140 to 150 of the most needy, and to accommodate them, and also to provide a facility where they would have food, health, education, and to stream them all the way through to university level. So we're going to take children off the streets and we're going to put them somewhere there. So hopefully that will come to pass. It also provides for accommodation for overseas help, in that he's got 2 or 3 different rooms there for people that wish to go and assist, sort of thing. Yeah. So that's going to get underway fairly soon. So a young person might say, I'm going to dedicate 1 month or 2 months of my life, I'm going to go over there. And even if they don't do a lot, I think the mere fact of them being there and seeing what's going on, visiting the people in the streets.
And it's already started, hasn't it? Some of the boys from the western suburbs are going there helping to build houses.
Yes, that's somewhat separate issue. That the other thing that that happens out of the MGL's mission house there at St Benedict's has been an interest in the poorest of the poor, those people that are living off the tips. This has been documented before. Shown before, but not a lot of ongoing assistance has been made. So there is one particular priest who's more or less taken that portfolio. I visited with him the town of Patajas, which was built initially on a tip, but is now been built in, and the valley is there, but the people are still there. They're in the shanty situation, in very poor situation. Average 5 families live in a possibly 12 by 15 feet or 5 by 3 metre humpy shack, and they live on $1.50 a day for all of them per day, you can imagine. So they are down, really, suppressed sort of thing. So it was my opportunity to go with Father Paul on the day to visit them and spend time with them, and it's quite moving. So the hope is to do something there apart from the street children. Already a lot's being done, contributed quite a bit, and that building is finished. Patajas is a separate situation of about 8 to 10,000 that live in shocking situations, sort of thing, slum situations.
So there's quite a lot of different projects then going on.
So there's 2 major projects, yes. There are projects that the Mission House of St Benedict's has within its own area, which is Quezon City. Quezon is part of Manila, right? So that's an ongoing situation where they have a mixed 10 minutes takes you to Calcutta, 10 minutes takes you to Turak.
Right.
In the diversity of
the type of lifestyles.
That's right. Yeah. So, but that's good. That's good to have a mixed situation sort of thing. So they've also got their poor people, their socio-economically deprived people, if we call them whatever, in that, so just local to them.
Can the actual wealthy people help their own poor people as well?
Yeah, there are good wealthy people.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I suspect that it's probably only 5% of the wealthy people would be doing anything.
So it's interesting that someone from another country has to step in there, where they've got their wealthy people who could help them themselves, but they're not doing it. So you've got to come from Australia to go and help them, when they could actually.
Well, there is no government assistance for the work that Jodine Solo is doing.
He's doing it all.
He relies
on.
on.
Yeah.
There's a few in the Philippines that help him, and there's a few of us in Australia, some in Ireland, some in the States. So he's gone outside to get that assistance.
Yeah.
All right. Because I'd spoken to him, I said, "What about government assistance?" And he just throws up his hands. He said, "That's
it's just not going to happen.
Not going to happen." So it's better that he does what he does. So his big ambition is to have this specialised house or facility at the moment is about to fully begin. It's been held up somewhat in the last 2 months by government red tape, but that's about to get underway.
Beautiful.
His plan is to double up and triple that situation.
Okay, that's great. We'll have to talk a bit more about that when we return. You're watching Nat Chat. Stay with us. We'll be back with more very shortly. Hello and welcome back to Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich, and today our guest is Jeffrey Bellville, if you've just joined us, and he is a retired pharmacist, but he's now putting all his efforts and energy into raising money, help and awareness to the poverty that's happening in the Philippines. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Mirella.
So I'd just like to know from another perspective, what is your pain and sorrows that you've seen and experienced there, and you see that the people are living there, and how can others help?
Yes, I think the first time was we arrived on the Friday, and the Saturday is the open day for the street children, the He Cares program, and so we visited there in the middle of the morning, Saturday morning, and there would have been around about 200 to 300 of the street children had been gathered together, and so they had those that needed cleaning had been cleansed, I should say, and so there was a time of a little bit of a party was going on, a bit of music, and then they had long trestle tables made out for them, and they were being fed what was possibly their one decent meal for the week. So that's sort of moving. The friendship of the children is also very, very touching. How they'll actually come up to you, and I remember one gorgeous little girl. She was only about 4 or 5, and she came up to me, and I know I was a bit overweight, but she sort of patted the tummy and said Buddha, so which is
Very cute.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So
it's just nothing, she's not
but
judging.
she was just being, friendly sort of thing. So we, you spend a bit of time with them. You sit down. There are street children there as young as 2.
Yeah. Oh,
so yeah, that's difficult.
it's very sad.
The MGL brother that I travelled with is particularly good with children, and it was a joy to see that particular child just sitting on his knee, and he was feeding it, sort of thing. So a very sort of moving scene when you look at the sadness of that little child. So
and then what gives you the love and hope when you see this sadness, because it's reality, but there's something that gives you this love and hope to continue to help?
Yeah, well, I think there can be nothing harder than the situation of a child that's growing up normally, without a father. In most cases, I think it's 70 to 80% there are no fathers. Fortunately, most mothers will stay on, and mothers will live on the street with the children. They have no accommodation, and the mothers will probably go off and earn $10 a week or something like that for a small income to come in, but it's still not sufficient. So they'll be on the street. So it's just a generally sad situation, and you wonder what opportunity have these children got. So I think what Jodine Solar has done is shown that a lot of these children are still pretty bright kids, and if they're given the opportunity, if they're given an education, but most of all if they're given love and care and attention, then that's the most important thing in the world.
Absolutely.
For those children to know that they're just not alone.
Exactly. I mean, people function better in life, at whatever stage they're at, if they feel loved and cared for. They're able to excel in their own dreams.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the primary, of course, food and shelter, of course, you need the basics as well, and warmth, but you also need love and hope, to live in this world. You see people that have got everything that still aren't happy in the world.
That's right.
And these children literally have nothing physically, materially.
Yes.
And they need love and hope to actually build up their material lives.
That's right.
It's an imbalance in the world, really, because there's people that have everything, but they're still miserable.
Well, somebody once said, you know, you'll always have the poor with you. So that's something that you have to accept in life. But it's more evident in places like the Philippines and Indonesia too, and many other parts of the world, of course. But they're local to us. That's why I feel that we should be doing something. I think Australia, for all its complaints, is still a land of enormous wealth and plenty, sort of thing, and we have to do something to help our neighbours.
And what inspires you? What is it that's driving you to actually stop your little comfy, cosy life in Australia to really help this situation there? What is it that's driving you to do that?
Well, I think I've been blessed family-wise, and in business I've been blessed, and I think having 9 years at boarding school from an early age gave us a huge sense of justice. There were times when perhaps we were harshly treated. I got the strap every day I was at boarding school for the first term, sort of thing. I know, I was a troublesome child probably, but there were times when I think it was too severe, sort of thing. There was an imbalance. You got a feeling of what is right and what is wrong.
Because you suffered as a child, you know what it's like to see suffering.
It was solid. It wasn't severe, but you were fully aware of it.
Well, being strapped's pretty violent.
Yeah, particularly when you get 6 straps on the one hand from one priest, and your hand goes brown, black, sort of thing. That's not pleasant.
It's just weird the way they were in the old days.
Yeah,
it's just so unheard of now.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, we had a lot of disciplines born out of English heritage, which were totally unfair.
And nowadays, psychology and education is teaching people there's another way to educate. You don't need to strap them to line.
No.
And it scars people. And obviously, you were scarred by that, and you feel a little bit of pain from what you experienced. So now you want to reach out to children and help them not to have a scarred life. Well, in whatever way you can.
That's right.
Whatever way you can.
That's right. We have justice and we have love. We have, wanting to give, and all those things are in ourselves, sort of thing. So I think that's God is sort of calling on us to give of ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
The worst sin is selfishness.
Yes, the worst.
The greatest gift is...
Given it will be given to you.
Yes.
More times over.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So I think that's what he's saying, sort of thing. If you've been blessed with plenty, sort of thing, you certainly do owe it, sort of thing. So
that's beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the program. But would you like to come on again next week and we can continue on this conversation?
Be great.
Lovely.
All right. Thank you.
You've been watching Nat Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. Our guest was Jeffrey Bellville. I hope you enjoyed the program. I'll see you again next week.